Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right. Good evening, Fade to Black. That's right. Today is Thursday, June 1st, a brand new month, 2023. Tonight, our guest is Max Hawthorne. We're going to be discussing mega sharks and Megalodon. That's right. Is there evidence of the giant shark still existing? Ocean is a big place. It's really big. And we're going to be discussing all of that tonight. He's an author. He's a screenwriter. He's referred to as the Prince of Paleo Fiction. He's best known for his Kronos Rising series of sci-fi suspension thrillers. He was born in Brooklyn, attended school in Philadelphia, where he graduated from in the University of the Arts. In addition to being a best-selling novelist, he's a singer. He's a songwriter. He didn't mention one thing about my guitars, by the way, right? He's a paleontologist, cryptid researcher, IGFA world record-holding angler. That's he fishes. And a voting member of the Authors Guild. And I would like to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, Max Hawthorne. Max, you didn't say anything about the guitars behind me.
I honestly didn't notice because I was so enraptured by our conversation and whatnot, you know. Plus, I got these vampire glasses on, so I can barely see the screen.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. All right. I'm not buying anything that you're selling right now, but let's get to the first-time guest disclaimer, Max, which is this. This is you and I just sitting on my couch having a conversation, and where that conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends, but we're going to end as friends. There you go. The disclaimer's over. Are you ready?
That sounds great. And by the way, thank you for having me on tonight. It's an honor and a privilege, as Benny Hill used to say.
Yeah, well, the honor and privilege is all mine. That's
what I meant.
Yeah, okay, good.
That's also what Benny Hill used to say.
I used to love that. I remember I was like in sixth grade, right in there, right? Sixth grade. And I go over to spend the night at one of my neighbor's houses. His name was Keith. And I'm like 10. And he goes, dude, there's a show called Benny Hill. And once in a while, they'll have a naked lady on it. And I'm like, I'm 10, right? I'm like, when does this start? You know? and never did see the naked lady running around. Maybe once, but yeah. Benny Hill for a minute there kind of freaked out the world for sure.
He was hilarious. I mean, he could do more with a look than most stand-up comedians could do for their entire repertoire.
I love that show. Yeah, love that show. The ocean, let's start here. The ocean is a big place. And one of the quotes that gets used a lot when we talk about our planet is that we've mapped, we've seen, less than 5% of the oceans in the world. And that's a mind-blowing number. And I'm not even sure if it's that high, right? But when I was a kid, I had a couple of experiences with sharks, okay, like direct, kind of stuff. And this was down in the Pacific Ocean in Central America. And I'm out sailing. And off to my left, I'm steering. I forget what you call that when you're sailing, right? But I'm at the wheel. And my dad is in front of me. He is on the starboard side of the jib sail. His back is to that. the owner of the boat is down below deck. I can see him in the galley. I'm in the back. It's the three of us on the sailboat.
Mhm.
30-foot boat, 33-foot, yeah, decent sized sailboat. And we're out. We're doing our thing. And then I'm going to guess and say a quarter mile, somewhere between 100 yards and 400 yards out, out to on the port side, my left. This manta ray comes out of the water. And I don't know how big it is, but it's bigger than the boat we are on. Okay.
Wow.
And it catches the wind and it's coming towards me, and its mouth, you could have drove a car into its mouth, right? I mean, I'm looking right. I could see the ribs on the inside of his mouth thing. And then he goes back under the water, and I never saw it again. My point being, it freaked me out that there is something like that. And after that, your head's on a swivel, right? You're just looking. You don't know what is in the oceans. And that thing was huge. And for me, it was an experience of a lifetime. And I never saw it again. But there is stuff down there that we just don't have a clue about. And when we talk about giant sharks or megalodons and things, they live apparently forever, right? And if they don't need to come up, they're not going to, and we may never see them if they don't want to be found, right?
I don't know. By the way, the thing you said with the ribs with the manta ray, that probably would have been its gills that you were seeing. They have like gills, gill rakers, that kind of stuff. But they look like ribs.
Yeah, you would know better than me. I just know that for that instant, I looked right down its mouth, which it was huge. I don't know how big it was 10 feet wide, I guess. I don't know.
That's crazy because, I mean, most manta rays don't get more than 20 feet wingspan. So if you saw one that size, that was like a mutant ray of mythical proportions.
It was crazy big. It was crazy big. It's one of those stories, right? It's out at sea. It's my story, and I'm going to stick to it.
No, it's true. But you were right when you said 5%, but that's only 5% of the ocean floor. It doesn't include the average of 11,000 or so feet, 2+ miles of water above that ocean floor. See what I'm saying? So from a cubic perspective, we've seen a grain of sand on a beach, effectively, of the ocean.
And we all know it's deep, and there are deep sections of it. Tonight we're going to be talking about giant sharks and megalodon. How deep? Where's their favorite spot as far as depths go?
Are we talking about the extinct Carcaricles/Ototus megalodon, or are you talking about sharks in general, or what are we talking about here? I'm confused. Help me out here. That's a complicated question there.
Well, see, it's sort of a complicated question. When we're talking about sharks, we know that we see those on the shoreline and things, but as the bigger sharks get, do they like to get into deeper water and we don't necessarily make contact?
Okay, so I think that depends on the species. For example, you get animals like six gills and sleeper sharks and stuff that are comfortable in extreme depths. There was some video you probably seen where they were claiming it was a 60-foot megalodon, and really it was maybe a 25 or 30-foot six-gill or sleeper shark gnawing on a bait cage, which is still an immense shark. But you see at that depth, they're very lethargic. They don't, that fish is more of a scavenger at that point and that size, etc. If you're looking for hunter predators, I mean, threshers go pretty deep. For example, that's why they have those huge eyes with their countercurrent heat exchangers, so they can see and that kind of stuff and hunt. Swordfish, although that's not a shark, but most of your sharks, like white sharks, makos, things like that, your pelagic fish, they tend to be more in warmer waters. They don't go super deep often. White sharks only are normally, they sometimes dive deep, but it doesn't happen often. I think like there's one instance, for example, off of the Farallones where killer whales killed a great white, And then every white shark in the area disappeared for the rest of the season. And they tracked one or two of them with trackers, and they found out that once they realized one of their brothers had been taken down by orcas, they all dived down to 1,500 feet or something, which is more than an orca can do in terms of hunting, and they all swam to Hawaii. So at that point, they realized discretion was the better part of value, and they ran away from their natural predator, and so forth. But I mean, when you're talking about a shark like Megalodon or any of the other extinct megatooth sharks, most of those fish would tend to be temperate or warm water animals. They would be more coastal. They would be in the upper part of the water column, and they ate, well, especially Megalodon and such would feed on whales and things like that, which are also tend to be usually from like surface to 300 feet or so in depth normally. So, I mean, you stay where the food is. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, that's the beaches. Right. There's an old joke in comedy that goes around. Why do sharks attack, or why do sharks hang out at beaches? And it's where the food is. It's, that's if you're going to be doing that. How common are humans? And again, I'm just here to learn, right? Are humans just as tasty to a shark as anything else?
Well, let's see. Primates don't tend to be normally on the menu. And again, that's a species-specific question.
Right.
Generally speaking, they consider like shark attacks from a great white tend to be accidental, misinterpretation. They see a diver on the surface or on a surfboard, and they believe it's a seal, and that's how they like to hunt. They'll be closer down to the bottom, and they have. I'm sure you're familiar with their color patterns. They're darker on the top and white underneath. That's counter shading. Okay. And counter shading is there for a reason. That's the white part is so that when a shark is swimming up on the surface or near the surface, and if there's something under him looking up and considering making a meal out of him, like a larger shark, an orca, an enormous squid, whatever it might be, that white belly tends to blend in with the light at the surface and camouflages him a little bit. Whereas if he's hunting something and lurking along near the bottom, great whites, when they get big, they change from a piscivorous diet, that means fish eating, to hunting more marine mammals like pinnipeds, things of that nature. And then because they get bigger and slower, which is a fact, they become more like a mugger, so they want to creep along the bottom, and their dark color on their dorsal region lets them blend in with the seafloor better. And then when they see their prey looking up, they try and rush up at it and get that one bite in, do a lot of damage, spit it out so they don't get hurt, lose an eye or something like that. I mean, obviously, if you're a seal, you're going to fight for your life and you're going to bite. A shark that's blind in one eye or both eyes is in trouble. So they spit it out. They do the bite and spit routine. They wait for it to hemorrhage, to bleed out, and then they come and they eat it. Okay, that's the white shark's modus operandi, as they say. Now, tiger sharks can be a little more, I don't want to say they actively target people, but there are many instances in Hawaii where they seem to. If you're on a surfboard and they keep coming after you. And it's not like, oh, I thought you were a seal. They seem to know. And bull sharks, sometimes they'll come after you and they won't let go. They literally grab on, they won't release. But I mean, human beings are not normally part of the menu, but a lot of the animals are opportunistic. They're like politicians. They see an opportunity, they want to sink their teeth into it. See?
Again, when I was a kid, this is down in Panama too as well. Had this friend of mine sitting next to me, left in geometry class, and I don't know what brought the subject up, but we're talking about Jaws. And he says, I was attacked by a shark. I said, you were? He goes, yeah, check this out. And he stands up and he pulls his shirt up. And he had just like right out of the movies, right? Zigzag teeth marks all the way around all the way on his back. Like,
was this Rodney Fox by any chance?
No, his name was Jeff Scott.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so Jeff says to me, I said, what happened? He said, I was out of Toboga Island, cliff diving. We had a cliff diving spot out at this island. It's really cool. We all did it. Now, I never did it after he told me this story, by the way. But anyway, he's cliff diving, and he had a life preserver on. And when he was cliff diving, he was trying to swim deep down as far as he could go with the life preserver on, and then float to the top. Right? That's it. That's his. And he says, so he's doing that. He does the cliff dive. He's diving down. He said, right out of the black, boom, the shark just comes out of nowhere, grabs him and pulls him down. And then the next thing he knew, he was on the surface of the water. It bit him and let him go. It didn't eat him. You know what I mean? It didn't like bite through him. It bit him and then let him go. Exactly what you're saying here. And they medevaced him out, helicopter, the whole thing, sewed him back up. But it was a horrendously big mouth that bit him. But let him go. Bit him and let him go.
Did they say what species it was?
No. I'm 6.
And he had a life preserver on, you said.
Yeah.
That may have also contributed to saving his life, because that would have borne some of the brunt of the blow, reduce some of the puncturing of the teeth, which they rely on, that extreme sharpness, and also probably didn't taste very palatable as well.
Yeah. So in a PE class, right, later, every time I would look at, playing soccer, and I would just look at that and just imagine the size of the shark. It wasn't small. This was something pretty big, but it let him go.
Well, there's formulas out there. If I can get the measurements of the bite from you, I can figure out approximately how big the shark was. And hi, Jamie C49. Nice to meet you. Sorry,
Jamie C49. Oh, I don't watch the chat. I thought somebody just walked in your house.
No. I used to be a host myself, and all that. So out of reflex, I tend to say hi to people when they say hi and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Everybody say hello to Max so he can run down 1,000 people real quick. Just everybody just go.
Really? Holy crap.
Now, earlier this week, in fact, it was yesterday, there was a press release about, you may have seen it, the Titanic. They have spotted a Megalodon necklace, a tooth necklace, inside of the Titanic, and they published the pictures of it. It's a gold necklace, the giant tooth. It's pretty nuts. I
actually left that down there myself when I was diving the last time.
When I have seen, and then
holding my breath. I'm sorry.
But when you see some of these teeth, and you can buy them, right? And some of them what are we talking about in terms of
hi Mish, hi Scott, hi Lavera, hi Cup, hi Dystopian, hi Zen's Bill. What are we talking about in terms of what?
You see these teeth, for sale and in museums. Right. What are we talking about in terms of feet and tons when we're talking about a megalodon?
Okay, so you want to know like how big the shark got?
Yes.
Basically. If I had known this was video, because my fossil display case is literally 10 feet to my right over here, I would have brought out some real teeth to show you and everything. But I didn't know until the last second. I thought it was just radio. If you want, I'll go grab one, though.
Yeah, go grab one.
Is it okay if I go off camera for a few seconds?
Yeah. While Max is off camera,
you can say hi to everybody.
I'm going to say hello to everybody. Hello, Betty. Hello, Frank. Hello, Phil. Hello, Monica. When I saw everybody, if you haven't, Bill, put up in the chat the link. Somebody go and grab that, the Titanic Megalodon necklace. The press release went out yesterday. They've posted the pictures. I think they've got some video of it too as well. That is a ginormous tooth. And then if you remember last year on Fade to Black, I did the story about a family and the son, father and son on the beach, finding one of the largest megalodon teeth ever, and that was just on a beach, and they thought it was a piece of wood. Um, so yeah, I'm totally fascinated with this. Now let's see what Max is about to show us. Let's see. So you bought HBO Max and renamed it to your nickname. Oh, that's pretty good. Um, and also, okay, let's see what you got.
That's what she said. What?
Yeah, but a bump.
Let's see. Well, first off, here's a nice. I'm gonna go with that. Is probably a UR1, upper right one or two. This is a nice 6-inch tooth, and it's actually white, which a
Wow.
lot of people like. See, so they're like, "Oh my God, that's recently deposited" and stuff like that. So you got this bad boy, okay, and then we got this bad girl. And this is actually a 6.3-inch sucker, and this one is I'm going to say a UL. Wait, 4, upper left number 4. You got to get the front side. See, this is the back of the tooth, the rounded part. Okay. See, you got your lingual side and your labial side. So the outer side, which would be the labial side, is the part that actually would be shown when the shark opened its mouth. Nom, 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 nom.
Yeah, right.
Okay. And then you got this beast, which unfortunately is missing some of its root. Okay, but even so, I mean, this came from a monstrous tooth. I mean, look at the mass on that thing. You see how fat that bad boy is?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I even got a tooth from a close relative of the Megalodon, which is the fish it actually descended from directly. And this is a nice 4.8-inch Ototus chubutensis, which actually looks remarkably like a white shark tooth, though. It's differently shaped. See, so these fish, got to be about 40 feet long. The chubutensis, they shared the seas for many millions of years, and it's what you call chronospecies. Okay, it changed its form over time, and then eventually they split off into different populations. And chubutensis remained as it was, and the megalodon got bigger, and it changed its feeding tactics and got bigger. And then chubutensis either blended in or disappeared, went extinct, and then there was just megalodon, and then eventually it died off. But anyways,
Why? Okay. Is there evidence today of the possibility of megalodon surviving, and it has yet to be discovered?
well, I mean, I have. If we talking about like all the stuff I did for Monsters and Marine Mysteries, all those mega sharks and stuff like that, I mean, we could discuss that and whether or not that was megalodon or something else. Is that what you mean? Or
Well, certainly that's exactly what I mean.
Okay.
I mean, okay. The biggest, aside from the whale shark and things, but when we're talking about carnivorous sharks, we think of the great white for obvious reasons, and it's very big. But when we're talking about carnivorous giant sharks, we're not talking about a bigger version of the great white. We're talking about a different species altogether.
Yes, that is true. Although they all are /were both mackerel sharks. Okay, so let's see how we're going to do this. Okay, so first off, a couple years ago, I did a book called Monsters and Marine Mysteries, which, if people were interested in cryptids, giant prehistoric life in the oceans, and what's really maybe out there now, then I recommend the book. I mean, there's evidence of octopi and squid big enough to eat whales, literally eat whales. I did a whole chapter on mega sharks, which I got into in detail, and a lot of other stuff. I mean, some crazy things. I interviewed people that nobody knows are still alive. One guy who saw a 38-foot turtle, another guy that was actually attacked in 1976 when he was a teenager by the Southside sea monster that tried to eat him in his dad's boat, all sorts of stuff. But in Monsters and Marine Mysteries, there's a whole chapter on kind and Max advised us on self-defense when faced with a shark. Well, the best tactic is to not be there, number one, or preferably in a cage. But if you're faced with a shark, the first thing I would do is I would not panic. And I mean, it's a complicated question, though. Where are you? Are you underwater? Are you swimming? Are you scuba diving? Are you swimming on the surface? Are you snorkeling? Are you on a surfboard, a bodyboard? I mean, it's a million things. But I would not panic because thrashing is going to come off as a distress, kind of like stimuli, etc. I wouldn't turn my back on a shark. That's for sure. Some sharks, like tiger sharks, if they try and bite you, you can actually redirect them, like push them slowly away. Even if you float one way and they float the other, you can avoid being bitten. So it varies from species to species. There's a lot of info out there about that. But anyway, so in Monsters and Marine Mysteries, I covered a bunch of different sharks, evidence of sharks that were considerably larger than normal. The one in the video, do you want to talk about the video documentary that we just did?
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a second. I mean, I want you to continue, because when we talk about using words like or definitions like mega sharks, for the audience, they need to understand really what we're talking about here, and not necessarily what comes to mind immediately, which is like a tiger shark or a great white shark. That we're talking about something completely different.
A mega shark. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, like, the definition of a mega shark is
a preternaturally large shark. It may be a very large version of an existing species that's for some reason bigger than it's supposed to be. It could be something we don't know about. It could be something it's extinct and nobody sent it an email to tell it that it was extinct. I mean, it varies, but it's something big, just like the word mega implies. So in Monsters and Marine Mysteries, there were, 4 or 5 different sharks that we looked into. The smallest one was, and I christened these sharks all with names for the book, was a fish called the Beast of Briar Island. And this was documented by a couple friends of mine, which would be the Tudors, Jess Tudor and his wife Amy, who actually work and live on Briar Island, and they work for whale research. They do tours for whales, etc., and such. They have a sea salt company, but so Jess had documented this carcass of a 52-foot humpback whale that had died, and he was measuring bites on it, and he found a pair of bites that were 27 inches wide, and one was 31 inches tall, and the other one, which was right next to it, was 37 inches tall. 36 or 37, I think 37. And that's because the shark opened its mouth wider, to try and get a bite. Okay, but they were the same width, the same fish. It was obvious. And like your friend you were talking about who had that bite scar on him, it probably wasn't 27 inches wide. Because if you take your hand and measure out 27 inches, that would probably go from his hip to his shoulder or something like that. Okay, but that suggested a white shark feeding on the carcass that was a little over 26 feet long. So now that was the small end of the scale. And that's already a fish that's bigger than Bruce from Jaws. Okay, 25, 3 tons of him, that kind of thing. Okay,
big black eyes,
like a doll's eyes.
Like a doll's
don't
eyes.
seem alive until he bites you.
Still the best scene in cinema history. That's
absolutely
the USS Indianapolis. Okay, back to the whale and the bite size.
Okay. So that was the small end of it. Then there was, I'm going to try and work my way up the size line. Okay. Then there was, another one. Okay. So Kurt Jenner from the Center for Whale Research in Australia, and this was in a Discovery Channel special that they did about it. He had photographed a 69 approximately foot pygmy blue whale. Picture a 70-foot whale, it's called a pygmy, that had this huge healed bite scar on the top of its peduncle. That's the tail right in front of the flukes. Okay, and it had gouges on it and stuff that were healed, so you could see that it was a shark bite. And he was kind enough to send me some great HD full color images and stuff, so I could do research on it for Monsters and Marine Mysteries. And I was able to number crunch and all that, and eventually I figured out the healed bite was estimated at 39 to 47 inches. They photographed it from a distance, so they had to, count pixels to estimate the bite. And that could have suggested a very, very big shark, especially since it looked like only the front of the jaw had crunched into the whale. But what it turned out is this was an older bite, and it hadn't grown per se. They say, a lot of people think, oh, it was bitten when it was younger and the bite grew.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. Okay. If you have a bite on you, it doesn't magically symmetrically enlarge and the tooth marks enlarge like it's a copy machine and you hit plus 50%, plus 80%, etc. It doesn't work like that. Just like with a whale shark. When a whale shark gets bitten by a larger shark, the wound fills in. It heals like it's literally filling up. And within like a year or 2 years, it's almost gone or unrecognizable anymore. See, so people, get this like, oh, it was bitten when it was small, and they just dismiss it. That's not how it works. Okay, people go on my website and you look up an article, a blog post I did about whale sharks and great whites and how the whale shark survives attacks by white sharks, and you'll see right there, photographic evidence of how these sharks healed. So anyway, back to the pygmy blue whale. So what had happened is like, picture this is the part of the whale's tail and the flukes are over here. Okay, so the bite's right here, like that, like this. Okay, but it was kind of shallow, and I realized what had happened is this whale is constantly moving its tail. That's how it swims. It's just like you walking. If you put on one of those Fitbits and 7,000 steps in a day, same thing with the whale's tail. That's its locomotion. Okay, so the bite didn't change in terms of depth. It stayed the same depth, but it gradually flattened out. See, as the whale grew around it and that motion. So it became like a more shallow looking bite. So in reality, when I crunched the numbers, at least this is my considered opinion, the shark bite was 27 to 33 inches across when it was originally attacked when it was a younger whale. And that still suggests a white shark between 26 and 30 feet in length.
That's crazy.
Nothing. Yeah, that's nothing small.
No.
Okay. I mean, not at all. Okay, so that one I was calling the Perth Canyon Colossus. I try and come up with these cool names, like the Beast of Briar Island, Perth Canyon Colossus and stuff. But the biggest one in the book was insane. And these pictures, this was from 2017 and was courtesy of Dr. Simon Pierce. And this guy is one of the greatest marine biologists in the world. This man swims with whale sharks the size of a bus, pregnant ones, and gives them sonograms. Okay, he is living the life. Honestly, I'm like #jealous, love him, whatever. Okay, but he's my go-to guy. So he photographed this 40-foot whale shark off the Galapagos, and it had a fairly recently healed shark bite, a chunk taken out of it. And if you guys want to see it, the black and white version is in Monsters and Marine Mysteries. But if you go on my YouTube channel, which is at Real Max Hawthorne, you can find it by Google and everything. There is an actual documentary we'll be talking about momentarily, and in that there are color photos of Simon Pierce swimming with this whale shark with a 4-foot bite taken out of it, 48 inches across, with tooth marks on it. Okay, and that, using the most conservative bite formula out there, suggested a shark approximately 42 feet in length. So you're talking about a bus-sized carnivorous fish.
I'm looking at the yardstick, right? That's leaning against my wall. That's 3 feet, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're saying 4 feet, right?
Yeah. Yep. If you stretch your hands out like, so wide, okay, you can estimate 4 feet wide. It's gigantic. And you see the divers right next to the bite. So, it's like for scale. Okay, it was crazy. And, how did the shark not finish the whale shark off? And so, they're such slow, innocuous creatures and all that. And, I have a theory on that, and it's in the book and all that. But, at the end of the day, the whale shark escaped, and, its attacker got a mouthful of tough skin it probably didn't enjoy. And here we are.
Well, but okay, so we're talking about something that is mega. Mega is not even the right word. We need a new word.
Monster.
Yeah, four feet wide. that thing is still alive, and
Probably.
and probably has brothers and sisters.
Mhm.
Right? This isn't prehistoric. Something that has a 4 foot bite mark that could be 40, 50 foot long, a shark is alive and swimming right now.
Appears it's quite conceivable. Yes, I believe they were doing actually a formal paper on this. Um, so I don't know what stage that's in or anything like that, but I'll be curious to see what the professionals put out in terms of that. But and do you want to talk about the documentary that we
Yeah,
just did?
absolutely, absolutely, and we'll do that right now. But
But wait, there's more.
yeah, those teeth that you just held up from Megalodon, right?
Yes.
And you're talking about the size of Megalodon, but the 4 foot bite mark.
Hmm.
Are we talking about teeth? Probably similar.
That would be teeth about this size.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
insane.
Yeah, I mean, I discussed the only, it was either I have a pretty good idea what did the attack, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the documentary. But it was like I said, there are elasmobranchiologists. That means scientists who study sharks, rays, things like that, cartilaginous fish, and there are elasmobranchiologist formulas out there where you can use those to plug in numbers and estimate the length of a shark based on the bite width. And I've used these a lot when I wrote the book. And like I said, I used the most conservative one available because some of the findings were ridiculously big. I was like, that's okay. But still, a 42-foot fish is an insanely large fish. And the one that's in the documentary wasn't quite that big, but it was pretty freaking big. So, I mean, and we got some hard evidence of that.
Okay, we've got links up in the chat. You probably saw it to your YouTube channel.
Okay.
And I am here now. And you said the documentary is on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's the most recent one. I've been slacking. I haven't put anything on there in the last 4 months or something like that.
Right.
My guy was giving me grief about it. You haven't done a video in 4 months. I'm like,
so mega shark or megalodon?
Yes, that is the documentary.
Okay, we've got the links up for it now. It would sound okay. What's your best guess here? I mean, I understand the title and what we're talking about tonight, but when we're talking about a measurement of 4 feet,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going megalodon. Am I wrong with thinking like that? That it's possible for something that is supposed to have been extinct for 10 million years to have survived?
Well, the problem with the megalodon thing, I mean, do you want to discuss the documentary, the shark bites in there first? Because
Sure.
they're all kind of interrelated.
Sure.
Or okay, so let's talk about Mega Shark or Megalodon, the documentary. This came about because my buddies, the tutors, the same couple I told you about, Jess and Amy, from Briar Island, they reach out to me when they find interesting stuff because we have a shared passion for this. And so Jess was like, Max, I got a video, got a whale carcass here. What do you think? Blah, blah, blah. It's got shark bites all over it, all this stuff. So he sent me the video and he's like panning along the carcass. And the carcass is pretty nasty at this point. It's been beached for a couple of days, whatever, and stuff like that. And he was under the impression that the whale, which was a 30-foot humpback, so a subadult humpback, this was just this past July, just so we're clear on that. Okay, so 10 months ago, 11 months ago, something like that. And had been killed by a ship strike. And he wasn't wrong. It had certainly been badly wounded by a ship strike because, and you'll see in the documentary, there's prop wounds or massive prop wound on, I believe it's the right shoulder, where it was like shredded, like chop, 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 chop.
Mm-hmm.
Badly hurt the whale. Probably didn't kill it, but it would have been a bloody mess, and it would have drawn predators from all over, obviously, and stuff. And this is all covered in the documentary, but as the video was moving, towards the caudal region, That means, I'm sorry, towards the tail. Okay. I was like, whoa, stop the camera right there. What do we look? What? Stop. Let's go back. And there was this enormous bite near the tail of the whale. Now, we talked about, like, white sharks, they come up and they take a munch and, whatever, and then they wait for you to die, etc. Well, that's what they do. They like to hit you in the haunch, in the rear, this type of stuff. Like, if you're a white shark and you're attacking an elephant seal as big as you don't want to get bit by that thing. You could be killed even, or badly wounded. So they bite them in the tail region, inflict damage, like what happened with your friend. Okay. So there was this, looked like a giant bite there. And I was looking at the video, I could even see tooth notches in it. And there was no doubt it was a bite. Okay. So I asked Jess, because he'd already filmed this, to go back to the carcass and get me measurements of the bite. I'm not in Briar Island. I'm here in Pennsylvania and whatnot. But so he went back like a day or two later, but the tide kept moving the carcass and it shifted. So he measured this section, and it's in the video, that was like 54 inches wide. And I was using this for putting all this stuff together, all photos and videos and all this stuff for the documentary. And it didn't look like the bite that I had seen before. It was off. And it turned out the carcass had shifted with the tide. And so the caudal bite was more covered. And this was actually like 4 or 5 bites combined from a big white shark that had been feeding in the same section. So this was a, quote, small white shark, probably 20 feet long. Small. Okay.
Yeah,
and when you see the video, you understand why I say small. Okay. And I was like, so how, and then we didn't have any, like, the carcass was disassembled at this point, and the skeleton and whatever, all this stuff. So there was no more evidence. And I'm like, well, how are we going to measure this thing? But luckily, Jess at one point had taken his boot, and while he was taping, he had stuck it inside a bite that was right in the same region, for comparison. And I was able to get an exact measurement of his boot and then map that out to the caudal bite, etc. So we discovered that the bite by the tail was at least 36 inches across. Okay. Which,
it's pretty big. I mean,
32-foot shark.
I've seen it in the documentary, and
it's a 32-footer.
Yeah, you're talking about the photograph that's in the video showing the tail from the side, and is
video
that,
too?
Yeah, that's no, I'm saying okay, we're misunderstanding. But is that you in that shot?
No, that's Jess.
That's Jess. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you can see the size of the bite right there, because he's standing right there, and it's like this.
Yes, it's gigantic.
Yeah.
And his wife had taken pictures of the carcass when it was at sea and it was fresh. And as I looked through all those, God bless her, she got some. It's so rare to get pictures of one of these carcasses before that starts to turn the jello, and nasty jello at that. And she got, there's one shot where you can see there's another huge bite right near where the prop wound was. The fish must have been attracted to the wound and was chewing on that part too. And it's as big as the bite in the back. So we got 2 giant bites. We don't see the other side of the shark, unfortunately, but 2 bites at least from the same monstrous fish. And I mean, a 32-foot white shark would weigh about 8 tons, just to give you an idea. So it's an enormous, enormous animal.
In the shot, so that's Jess's boot. I remember that too as well, where he flashes his boot up next to the bite mark.
Yeah, she stuck it in the bite. Yeah,
in it, and then next to it is another bite mark that is right there, and that's got to be. I mean, that's multiple feet wide. I mean,
it depends on. I don't have the video in front of me, but the group of bites I told you about, maybe the group that's right under his foot,
right,
where there was like 4 bites together.
Right.
And those are still big bites. They're like 25 inches wide or something like that.
Those look like nibbles. Those reminded me of nibbles. Like,
compared to that one, yeah. I mean, yeah. So,
and they're still huge. They're big.
Yeah.
And you see the size of this whale, knowing that the circumference of that's the width. Let's go with width. Of that one giant bite mark next to the 3 or 4 nibbles. The thing is huge. It's huge.
Yes. It could swallow a person whole. The size pretty much of the shark from Jaws 3, which did swallow somebody whole, in fact, if I recall correctly.
I didn't see Jaws 3.
Yeah.
No.
When they had me down at years back, they invited me down to SeaWorld in Orlando for a behind the scenes tour and all that. They weren't happy with me, making fun of their orcas being in captivity and stuff like that. So they invited me down there, and they actually it turned out Jaws 3 had been filmed there, and they had kept a sign about the sharks or whatever and stuff, like danger sharks, where I forget what it says, but it's in the movie. It's still hanging on the wall there. So I have a photo of me with the sign and everything from Jaws 3. That was pretty funny.
Again, when I was a kid, we had a Hobie cat, right? Catamaran.
Mm-hmm.
And we sunk it, my dad and I. And we had a friend of ours, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
This is down in the Panama Canal. On the other side of the Panama. It's too long of a story. Anyway, so we flipped one of the pontoons filled with water. Catamaran capsizes, so the mast is pointing straight to the ocean floor. It's flipped upside down. And my dad and I and Eric are trying to hold on to it and swim to shore. We're about half mile off of the shoreline. And there are people lining up on the shoreline in front of us watching what's going on, right? And kind of anyway. And then all of a sudden, boom, I get bumped. And I was like, what was that? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And Eric goes,
that's never a good thing.
Yeah, he goes, sharks. And he takes off. He swims to shore. He leaves me and my dad out there. And by the time, so this is not a joke. We get to shore. People swam out. We pull the boat in. It's sitting there on the shore. And I look at myself, and I am scraped from head to toe, like sandpaper. I was bleeding. Just these things. Never. I didn't get bit, but they were just like boom.
Yeah, the skin is like coarse sandpaper. It will shred you.
I was shredded, man. I was scraped to death, but not.
Phil the Stalker. Did everybody read the sign behind Max? Yes, that is on my wall. That was put there, Phil, for when my nephews used to come over when they were little and a little annoying and stuff. There's giant fish on the wall behind me, but Jimmy wants the camera exactly where it is, so I can't pan up to show you the fish because I don't know if I can put it exactly back. But it says, unruly children will be used for bait. It says warning above that. I'm just going to move it up a little bit. There we go. See, there you go. See? And there's a striped bass there, too. But let me lower that back down. Let me see if I can get it.
All right.
I think that's pretty good. That's pretty close.
So, we used to...
You're lucky you weren't attacked, by the way.
There were shark nets all over, on the beaches and signs and stuff. But we would see them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You're right, though. Didn't get bit, but I was so busy swimming and I got bumped into so many times that I just started to ignore it. It wasn't until I got to shore that I saw it. I mean, it was up and down my legs.
You were incredibly lucky. Yeah. Incredibly lucky. I mean, you were chumming and thrashing, bleeding. I mean, that's like an Eat It Joe sign was hanging on your rear end.
I know, right? So. Oh man. Okay, so back to the documentary.
Okay.
I keep going back to the point, so let's kind of pick up where I left off. Whatever did the giant bite, that is something that is alive. This isn't science fiction, and this isn't
right. This was less than a year ago, 10 months ago, or something like that. Okay. By the way, I would be remiss if I didn't let you and your audience know, since they're very nice, and I feel bad if I don't. So in honor of your people and for your show, my guys, they didn't get it done quite in time like I wanted, but starting midnight tonight Pacific time.
Right.
Okay. So midnight, I think it's your time, and for 2 days running. Okay. So it's going to be all Friday and all Saturday. Pacific time ends midnight Pacific time. It's been set up so that my novella, Cronus Rising Diablo, is free, the ebook version, for any of your people that want it, on Amazon. Read it on any device.
No codes.
No code. Just click on, go for the Kindle. You can read it on your phone or anything you want. It has been called, Jurassic Park meets Pompeii. So that kind of gives you an idea. And this is the whole basis of the Cronus Rising series, this prehistoric island caldera off the coast of Cuba, filled with all sorts of giant prehistoric nasties, etc. But it's on the house for your guys. Anybody can get it, and I think they're going to like it. Actually, you know what? Authors DB put it as one of 2016's top 10 books. So I was able to finagle it. So for 2 days and 2 days only, anybody who wants it just goes on Amazon and it's theirs.
Okay, so you said it's a volume 3.
No, it's Cronus Rising Diablo, the one with the really scary eyes and the volcano burning behind it or under it or
Cronus
something.
Rising. I want to get the right link up right now. And I see it right here. Cronus Rising Diablo. Bill, do you have it? Pop it up in the chat for us if you could. And it's Cronus Rising Diablo right there. Got it. And thank you for that. That's really, really cool. So from midnight tonight until midnight Sunday.
Yeah, Pacific time. That's per Amazon's terms. I have no control with that. I wanted it to be able to be live right now, but they didn't get it done in time. You know, there was like only a couple hours, whatever they were saying and stuff like that. And I was like, all right, whatever. But, you know, for those 2 days, anybody wants it, it's on me. God bless. Enjoy. I hope you like it.
Okay, there you go. And thank you for that, Bill. Bill's got it up. I just copied it and got it up there too. Thank you for that. That's real cool.
My pleasure.
Now,
so you were saying, so back to the shark and it being still out there.
Yeah, because they got to have family, right? They got to have brothers and sisters. I don't know what a shark pod is called, but there's got to be more. There's not just one.
So I guess what we're asking is what kind of species of shark do we think this was? Was it a megalodon? Was it not? You know, if not, what is it? Are there more of them and all that jazz? Correct? Okay. So let's start from the beginning then. So the whale carcass has some shark tooth marks on it. You can kind of see. They're pretty triangular. What was more telling was the wounds on the Galapagos giant. And again, thank you, Dr. Simon Pierce, sent me massive photos. I mean, like so high definition, I could have practically printed up the whale shark full size. Okay. And there's one shot where you can see the bite up close and you can see these slashes from the teeth like that. And so the thing is that they're very pointy. Okay. So if I brought out, like I have a 3-inch white shark tooth in the display case, and you look at that, it's like a perfect triangle. Okay. If you look at the Chubutensis tooth, it's very triangular. Okay. Now this is a couple of teeth off center, but still, you can see how it's shaped there. But if I put this Megalodon tooth beside it, you see how round it is by comparison. So tooth gouges from this would be more like scoops. You know what I mean? Like an ice cream scoop.
Sure.
And they don't match, unfortunately. Okay. Which means that it suggests that it's not a megalodon. Then the other problem that we run into, if we were trying to say that the shark is still alive, and we could say, oh, well, the smaller sharks, you know, this is not a full-grown one. Maybe the teeth are not as pointy or something like that, or maybe it's positioning. It hit more with the lower teeth, which are more pointy. The problem is that in order to have an animal to maintain itself, to not go extinct, okay? Hi, Audrey. You are welcome. You need a breeding population of at least 500 animals, okay? 500 adults. If there were 500 40 to 50 foot megalodon sharks swimming around out there, pretty sure people would be seeing 4 foot, 5 foot shark fins all over the place. You know, there'd be attacks on boats, at least smaller boats. There would be more whale carcasses showing up, all this other stuff like that. But we don't get any of that. We get these occasional carcasses with this feeding damage on it and stuff like that. And that to me means that what I believe is the case, and this was on Discovery, I'm not sure if it was the same one or not. I think it was the same special that they had. It was called something in the kill zone, super predator in the kill zone or something like that. But is that marine biologists, some of them believe that great whites occasionally suffer from what's called gigantism. And I documented this in Monsters and Marine Mystery. So if anybody's out there has a chance to get the book, I recommend the Kindle version. it has all the links to everything, all the scientific references, etc. So you can and go wherever you want. Much
Right.
easier than trying to hand, things, stuff. And if you have Kindle Unlimited, I think you can even read it for free. But anyway, the they believe that gigantism occasionally affects white sharks, and it doesn't affect just white sharks. There are other species out there that it does affect. For example, in here we have an animal called the American toad. I have one. It's on my Facebook page. My daughter has it. It lives outside of our house, and it's like her pet now. Okay, and the American toad gets to be maybe 4 inches in body length. It's a good sized toad, but sometimes they find females that are 8 inches long, which is ridiculously big. And this toad is suffering from gigantism. So sharks also have indeterminate growth, as do snakes and things like that. I personally, when I was like I don't know, 10 or 11, I caught a predatory species of beetle, and it's in the book. I don't remember the species right now. And normally they only get to be like an inch long. And I got one that was like 3 inches long. I mean, alive and kicking, bit the shit out of me and whatever and stuff. Okay. But so gigantism is out there. So if it makes sense, I mean, the rake marks of the teeth match a great white more, number one. The other thing is the bite shape matches a great white. But most importantly, if you have a great white that doesn't stop growing, it doesn't slow down, and it has this gigantism thing, it turns into a monster. See? And unlike human beings, like I'm sure have you ever heard of a man named Robert Wadlow, who is the tallest documented human being in history?
Mm-hmm.
He was like a millimeter shy of 9 feet or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But he was suffering from this growth messed him up, and he had acromegaly, and he walked with a cane. Eventually he was crippled and he died. So our bodies don't respond well to being 8 or 9 feet tall. But sharks can survive at larger size. We know, because we know we had 50-foot megalodons at one point. So the body,
the body weight is supported by the water.
right?
Humans, we have to deal with the thing called gravity, right?
Mhm.
So we're always being pulled down, and the gravity with our blood and circulation system, all of our organs are completely stressed out when you get over. That's why we're just 6 feet tall and we're not 10 feet tall. Gravity is pulling us down. But if you're a shark, yeah, and if you are a shark and technically you never stop growing, and you're not dealing with gravity, and you put in the giant effect on top of that, we're talking about a huge fish.
Yes. Well, see, now indeterminate growth means that the thing never stops growing. This is common for fish, for reptiles, things like that. But normally in the wild, they grow to a certain size and then they continue to grow, but the growth slows down.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of growing a foot a year, they might grow 2 inches a year or something like that. You see, they keep growing, like Lolong, the crocodile. He reached a certain size and then he slowed down. Okay. So the thing is, old age eventually puts a stop to that. But if you have something where it doesn't slow down, now you get these great whites with gigantism, and that can explain the Beast of Briar Island, the Galapagos giant, and whatever the heck we're going to name this Briar Island behemoth. There's the name right there, okay? This new one. And the thing is though, now, if we wanted a mega shark population out there, we'd pray for these sharks to be mating and, passing on that gene for gigantism so that they'd be all over the place. And then we'd have 30, 40-foot great whites. They wouldn't be megalodons, but they'd be impressive as all hell. Okay. But the problem is that it's probably like 1 in a few thousand or 1 in 10,000 animals. They're very rare. And they don't breed because, I don't know. Do you know how white sharks mate?
I no.
It's very violent. Okay. So basically, so when a lion mates, for example, the male comes up, he grabs the female by the nape with his teeth, and he pulls up on her neck like that. Okay. And that basically instills a reaction like when she's a kitten and the mother carries them by the neck and they go limp. Are you okay? Did I say something you're choking?
Man, this is just an unexpected turn. Okay.
So that's how the male is able to convince the female lioness, the lioness to hold still. Okay.
Right.
So so they can procreate. So they can copulate. Okay. We're going to be very scientific here. All right. So that's what happens. White sharks do something similar. The male comes up and he grabs her by the gills, like that, and he bites. But it's not a soft bite. This ain't a gentle bite. Okay, I mean, you can look it up. You'll see wounds where the gills are exposed, and it looks like it should be dead. Okay, and but they do regenerate, and within a year, that wound is completely gone. Apparently, with a few scars or whatever stuff. But so his job is he bites her on the neck and he pins her down to the seabed. Okay, and
does his thing.
Yeah. Okay,
Right.
And then you have little sharks. Okay, so. And the males tend to be a little smaller than the females. So if the female's like deep blue, if she's 20 feet long, like they say, a huge male might be 17 or 18 feet. So there's a little bit of size difference. The female tends to be larger. Okay. So now think about this. If you're an 18-foot male in his prime and you approach a 42-foot female, do you think you're going to grab her by the neck and wrestle her down to the seabed? Or are you going to get eaten?
I've seen that movie. Yeah. Right,
Okay.
right.
I mean, seriously, that's what's going to happen. And if it was the opposite, if it was a 36-foot or a 32-foot male and he started approaching a female, she's going to run for her life. She doesn't want those jaws crunching down on her. She'd get eaten. See? So unless you had two of them that were in this similar size range, the odds of that happening on this whole planet and millions of cubic miles of ocean, you know what I mean, is very, very unlikely. Could happen given enough time, but I don't see it happening in my lifetime or anything like that.
So what you're suggesting, and we've got to break to a commercial, but so what you're suggesting is the one that did this attack. By the way, this was in the Northeast. This is near Maine.
Which one?
The
documentary?
Yeah.
Prior Island. Yeah, it's right up there, a little past there.
Where
Bay
they
of Fundy.
Yeah, where they filmed Jaws. So I don't know what it is about that area, but you're suggesting that this may be a one-off shark, that there isn't, 500.
I think the Bay of Fundy seems to be a hot spot for mega sharks because both the beast of Briar Island and this one, for the evidence of them, they were feeding in the same area. So it looks like and it's not the same animal because it was only filmed a year or two earlier. A 26-footer is not turning into a 32-footer in a year or two. Understand? It's got to be two big sharks in the same space. And yes, the seafloor does creak, especially when my fat butt, was walking around on. I've heard it creak. It's scary. So
how many? Check this out. I'm just going to pop this up. There's somebody that just said they're in Maine. Here's somebody else. I'm in Maine. How many of you are in Maine and knew about what we are talking about tonight? Our guest tonight, Max Hawthorne. We are talking about mega sharks or Megalodon. All of that and much more when we come back after this short break. Stay with us. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Please visit all of our sponsors. We're taking a quick break here. All of the links are below. We'll be right back. Join us November 10th, 11th, and 12th, 2023 as Disclosure Fest Foundation and Fade to Black Radio presents Stairway to the Stars, a Human Origins Science and Technology Expo, live at the Luxor Hotel and Casino on the Las Vegas Strip. With live talks, lectures, and workshops by world-acclaimed researchers and authors. This is Jimmy Church, by the way, and I'll be your host all weekend long, featuring topics like human origins, ancient technologies, indigenous teachings, workshops, a mass meditation, yoga and sound healing, music, and so much more. Don't miss our intimate sky watch and meteor shower over the infamous Area 51 airspace in Rachel, Nevada, with special surprise celebrity hosts guiding us through the night. Also introducing our Disclosure Fest VR Starship area with dozens of rides. You've got to check it out. This event will sell out. For more information and tickets, please visit disclosurefest.org. This is Jimmy Church, and I want to introduce you to Life Waves X39 Stem Cell Activation Patch, which has totally transformed my health, my sleep, brain, and my eyes. I no longer need reading glasses. X39 is a true breakthrough in regenerative science. Using light, X39's patented age reversal technology is clinically proven to signal the activation of younger stem cells, accelerating the body's natural healing process. X39 promotes restoration and rejuvenation, bringing the life-changing benefits that I've experienced. By naturally elevating a master signaling peptide in the body, X39 boosts vitality, health and wellness, and resets 4,000 genes to a younger, healthier state. It's one patch, once a day, and you can turn back time with X39. Just go to healingworksnow.com. That's works with an X. healingworksnow.com.
Hey everybody, it's Billy Carson, also known as Forbidden Knowledge. I want to talk to you about a very special event coming up July 30th, 2023, the Forbidden Conscious Awards. We're going to honor people who have been contributing to the conscious community for decades. People that you know and love that have helped you get to higher levels of thought and consciousness and awareness. It's going to be a live in-person event, but seats are going to sell out very fast. You want to make sure you're there in person, and guess what? You can help vote for the winners. Voting is available on forbiddenknowledge.com, and the categories are going to be social media influencer, podcast/radio host, TV host, actor, director, producer, entrepreneurs, health and wellness, philanthropists, authors, field researchers, archaeologists, space anomaly hunters, and of course, a Lifetime Achievement Award. I'll be your keynote speaker that night at the Forbidden Conscious Awards. We have celebrity guests performing. We'll have a halftime show where we're actually going to perform music for you. And don't forget about the pre-event mixer, where if you buy a box seat, you'll be in the VIP section, and you also have private access to a VIP mixer with celebrity guests. Shake hands, break bread, network, and then walk the red carpet with us and take amazing photos. It's gonna be a night to remember. You don't wanna forget this. Make sure you hurry up and get your tickets because they're selling out very fast. I wanna see you there. Forbidden Conscious Awards 2023.
River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. That's right, River Moon Coffee. Links are below. This portion of the show is brought to you by Accidental Truth, the new documentary directed by Ron James. It is on all streaming platforms, and you can go and check it out right now. And I'm going to say it again, my 7 seconds in this film, it makes the entire movie. Go check out Accidental Truth today. And also brought to you by X39. There it is. I keep it right here in the studio. I'm wearing the patch right now, and it's the reason why I don't wear my glasses anymore. X39 by LifeWave, and the links are up, and they're also over on our social media and over on our website. Our guest tonight is Max Hawthorne, and a couple of things really quick as we get things started again. When we are talking about the sizes of some of these mega sharks, Max, I don't think we fully understand. We talk about the Galapagos giant, right? 40 to 42 feet long, and that's a really big fish. And I look at it like this, and I don't want to freak you out, but it almost feels like we're talking about Bigfoot. And there are similarities here.
I saw one. A Bigfoot.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Now I got to start taking notes. What are you doing to me? I got to circle back to Bigfoot. Okay.
No, you brought it up. I'm just telling you, I have seen a Bigfoot.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Okay, I got it.
Right, baby boy.
So, and the reason is, if we've only checked out 5% of our oceans, there's a lot of places for things to live, and And Bigfoot,
Mhm.
especially in the Pacific Northwest, when you
Right.
drive around or fly around there and you look out the window,
Mhm.
no human has ever set foot in those forests, right? And there's just so much of it that is unexplored. And if you want to hide, you can hide. If you want to just live your life, you can do it in solitude. It
Mhm.
may be the same thing with these mega sharks.
That is 100% true. And Phil, that was a lake in Connecticut. It was actually swimming and diving for crayfish. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, the evidence. There's other stuff out there. I mean, I had another person approach me back, gosh, like a year or two ago, and he had photographed an 11-foot white shark that he called sea batch, and he's a professional underwater photographer, really nice guy, and sea batch had a bite on her, a scar with tooth grooves, healed. That's like 30 inches across. So again, you're talking a monstrous fish. That one was maybe, I don't know, 28 feet, something like that. I was the calculation, but now that could be one of these other fish. That could have been like the beast of Briar Island grew a little bit.
Mhm.
But still, if it's not, there's another one out there again. So I mean, if you're wondering why I keep leaning over here, Olaf, one of our Siberian forest cats, is on my desk right now, and he's such a good boy.
A Siberian forest cat?
Yeah, they're from Russia. They're a wild species from Russia that's been semi-domesticated and all that. And yeah, we have two of them. You didn't read my bio
No,
because
listen,
these guys are famous.
hold on. Let's see. Can you pick her up? Him?
Him.
Let me see.
Sure. Hold on a second here. So I get my exercise.
This is
Come here, baby boy. Oh gosh. Okay. So this
what?
is Olaf. Okay.
What?
He's a big baby boy. He was so cute.
What?
So anyway, oh,
What?
yes. And he sleeps on my desk as I write. He's such a good baby. Shh. You sleep
Oh
now,
my God! This is like one of the old episodes of the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
He is the greatest. They are the greatest cats in the world. This guy is such a character. Let me tell you, my wife was coming in off the deck yesterday, and he wanted to get outside to go eat a squirrel or who knows what, terror that he is. And he was like sitting upright and like looking, like trying to get around her. And she took her foot and she pressed her toes gently against his chest. And she gave him a little nudge, like, no, like that. So what does he do? He falls down like he's been shot. And he's like lying there like, like this and everything. Drama queen. Okay. I mean, like the stuff that they come up with and do, they're like dogs, but smarter. They're conniving. They're characters. They're hilarious. I mean, like, it's great. Honestly.
I
It
cannot.
really is.
It took up the entire camera.
Hey, he's a big boy.
Yeah. How many
Hey,
pounds?
get two of them.
I just
Gosh, I don't know. I saw him the other day on the scale and it said 25.6, but he wasn't fully on the scale. Like he was like one leg was off, and I don't think that was accurate. But very poofy. He's got huge feet and paws. I mean, like, his teeth are sizable too. But he's a big mush. Isn't that right, baby boy?
okay. Oh man. The how long what's a typical lifespan? I remember I did a Fader fact a couple of years ago. I do it every night on the show, and one of them there's this a piece of folklore that lobsters are immortal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and there's reasons for that, and yes, okay, so but how you kind of hear the same things about great white sharks, like they do they live for hundreds of years, 100 years?
No, you think that's the Greenland shark you're thinking of,
Right.
that can live like hundreds or even 350 or 500 years. I forget. It's some crazy number.
Right.
White sharks, if memory serves, usually can live from like 40 or 50 to 70 years, something like that, which is still a long time as fish go.
Right.
So
And to get to 42 feet, again, I want to be clear here. Like with the Galapagos giant, what
hmm
species of shark do you think it was or is?
I think it's another mutated white shark.
Great white shark.
Yep.
And
But
so,
very great, a great white shark or something like that. And yes, we do have cats. Okay, to borrow a line from a famous movie, I'm Catman. Okay, so no, I saw somebody when they was saying we got cats, and yes, we do. Only one right now.
you
I'm sure
know,
Mace will be in a little bit too.
so to get to 42 feet, we're
Mhm.
talking, a 50, 60, 70-year-old shark.
It could be, or if it's growing super fast, it might only be 30 or 40 years old. You know, I mean, anything's possible. I
Right.
don't know how gigantism works in fish, to be honest. You know,
The what is it about the Pacific Northwest when it comes to these mega sharks, as opposed to say Australia, where we hear about things, or up near San Francisco? We hear about great white sharks.
well, the
Quite
Briar Island ones are on the Atlantic,
right.
actually, not the Pacific. Those two, Galapagos, obviously, it's way out in the Pacific and stuff. So, I mean, there've been a lot of places. Australia was one of them. So it's a cosmopolitan species. I mean, so you're going to have them here, there, wherever they are.
It's such a fascinating subject to me. And would it surprise you if a megalodon did surface, like Bigfoot or Loch Ness or one of these cryptids, these
hmm
mythological creatures? Would it surprise you to
You
to
know,
find?
the things I've seen, I mean, like nothing surprises me anymore. It's kind of like that scene from, and yes, I watched the Twilight movies. Okay, I admit it. And where there's one of them where she discovers that werewolves are real, and she's sending out an email saying, "Are all the legends true?" 'Cause she knew about vampires, now they're werewolves. This type of stuff. So it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, well, I wouldn't be like astonished. Let's put it that way. But I would be a little surprised based on the fact that there's nothing out there to suggest that based on the morphology of the fish, the diet of the fish, that type of stuff. So I mean, a white shark that's that big, it's going to be fairly slow moving. It's probably going to be more cautious. It's probably going to learn that ships are dangerous, things like that. It won't be lurking on the surface as often and stuff like that. If you see the fin, you might only see half of it. You don't see the whole animal, or people think you're a basking shark and you're written off, that type of stuff. But it's a rare creature, and it's more drawn to carrion, meaning dead carcasses, easy meals, that type of stuff. So, but if a megalodon species was out there, I'd be happy to fish for him. I'll fish for anything.
Aside from the movie Jaws, but
Uh,
now we have, Shark Week. It's one of the biggest events in television. Why the fascination with sharks?
well, I think Jaws was responsible for a lot of that, as you mentioned. It was a huge blockbuster. It actually set the stage for all future summer blockbusters, and it's a scary thing. I mean, the water is being in the ocean, even in a lake, is kind of creepy. If you look at people, I mean, without our technology, we're not really the apex predator that we think we are. You know, we're small, we're slow on land, we're slugs in the water. We don't have talons, we don't have sharp teeth, we don't have the strength of a chimpanzee. What do we have, honestly, other than our minds and technology? So when you're in the water, if you're in the ocean, like with a life preserver on, bobbing around, you're a topwater lure. You're bait. Like one of those, like when you put out a minnow under a bobber, that's you, basically. And there's many things out there that will eat you. And the scariest part about it, and the reason why the Cronus Rising series is so successful, is that being consumed by something, whether it's a fish or a reptile or something like that, being eaten alive is one of possibly the most terrifying thing that could happen to someone. that you're going to be ripped apart, chewed up, swallowed down, and it no longer exists because of this giant predator. And in the water, you can't even see it coming. You're on the surface, looking around. Remember the poor girl at the beginning of Jaws? Nighttime, skinny dipping, all of a sudden, yank! It's terrifying. It really is.
Like I told you, with my friend Jeff, he said it came out of from beneath him. He watched it come out of the black and just.
Oh, the one that hit him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in mid-charge. It must have been like, here's my ticket, and boom. Thank you, David.
What we picture, okay, and this is just like you were just saying with the movie Jaws, we picture great whites, tiger sharks, and other sharks that are purely predators. They're just out looking for us and things that are alive, and they get. Is that a fair classification, or are they out eating license plates and garbage on the bottom of the ocean?
Garaji, I like the Star Wars reference. That was awesome. Well, it's not like sharks are out to get people. Although, to be honest, with all the shark finning that goes on out there and the millions of sharks that are slaughtered every year for their fins, I wouldn't blame them.
Right.
Honestly. And as a conservationist, I'm going to take a moment to say, hey, people, shark fin soup does not work for that. Viagra, Cialis, okay? Leave the sharks alone. But anyway, I am sure there are instances when a shark sees a person flailing in the water and says, oh, this is an easy meal, and it gives into its instincts. I'm sure that a lot of the attacks on people are accidental, or maybe they're accidental and the shark says, ooh, I taste blood. This might be good to eat. And they keep after you. Okay. But I don't think it's an organized type of attack on sighting, because people are in the beaches all the time and such. And, there'd be many, many more attacks, but, so I digress from the rest of your question. License plates and stuff like that.
Yes,
you're thinking of tiger sharks and stuff like that that will mouth and eat just about anything. So I don't know. I kind of was all over the place with that. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to ease people's minds a little bit. The habits are the habits just to go out and eat what is easy to eat. And just out there, just like, I don't want to use the word scavenger, but I kind of am. As opposed to being this, predator that is looking for humans that are sunbathing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of juicy, delicious people out there. I mean, my God, except for the silicone and all the other stuff like that. So I don't know. Some people are tastier than others. I was at the ear doctor today, and my doctor, he was like, you have really nice ears. And I was like,
no.
Thank you.
No,
I was like, I'm gonna start walking around now and like showing them off, like, hey baby, check these out, huh? What do you think of that? There's another one over there. But anyway, so
I actually had that happen to me.
It was weird.
I swear, I had that happen to me. I had this ear doctor. This is years ago. I'm a young strapping lad, right? And he goes, hey, do you surf? And I go, what? You've got surfer ear. You surf. You work out? I said, you know what, man? Gotta go. Gotta go. I don't even want to know the next question. I'm out of here. But what about, how did we know 65 million years ago, asteroid hits the planet, wipes out the dinosaurs. Sharks lived through that. Where did the Megalodon go?
Okay. So a lot of people have this misconception that Megalodon or any of the megatooth sharks that are in that lineage were alive at the time of the dinosaurs, and that is not the case. In fact, there were no large predatory sharks in the oceans at the end of the Cretaceous period. They had all been apparently consumed by mosasaurs. And I'm not kidding. That's a scientific fact. You had these 50, 60-foot marine monitor lizards swimming around, and sharks were an ideal meal for them. And they were everywhere. Everywhere. Freshwater, saltwater. I mean, like, forget it. So the only sharks left, like the biggest shark I think that was still around was a thing called Credolamna, which was only about 9 or 10 feet long. That was the biggest predatory shark that was left at the end of the Cretaceous when the dinosaurs were still there. Okay, so now after the asteroid impact, Credolamna and many other fish survived. Different types of fish, prehistoric fish, etc. Different ones went extinct different times. Without the mosasaurs there as the apex predator, that niche became available. And then what happened is Credolamna began to grow and grow and grow because nothing was eating it. Does that make sense?
It's sort of. But I, in my limited research, when it comes to this over the years, I thought that the great white shark as a species was 75 to 100 million years old.
No.
And it is not?
No.
And I thought that I had also read that Megalodon didn't go extinct until 2 to 5 million years ago.
3.6 million years ago is the accepted norm right now for Megalodon. Let's see. I got so many shark teeth over there, but I'm going to pull up the numbers for you so that we have it. Because despite what my readers think, I am not omniscient and cannot remember everything.
Good point.
So, yes, believe me, I've tried. It doesn't work. So let's see what we got here. So there is one of the first, or maybe the first well-known megatooth shark is Ototus obliquus. And this fish lived, let's see here, from the Paleocene. So that would have been about 66 million years ago. Okay, so after the dinosaurs were gone, it evolved. And until the Pliocene, which was 5.33 million years ago. And this fish was around 30 feet long, the size of a monster great white, let's say. Okay, so that one was that's considered to be an early ancestor of Megalodon. And I can go through all the different species and stuff, but you had you had Ototus obliquus, you had, let me see, Ototus angustidens, you had, there's a whole bunch of them. As the shark changed and evolved and grew bit by bit by bit over millions and millions of years. Megalodon lived from 23 to 3.6 million years ago. So it didn't evolve until 43 million years after the dinosaurs were gone.
What would take out the Megalodon, though? And
you mean why did Megalodon go extinct?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand here, and I'm sure everybody's thinking the same thing. Did the great whites win this battle?
Well, so you see a lot of theories that get put out there about stuff, and some, in my opinion, are a little more sensationalized than others, and why Megalodon died off. I did an interview about this, I think it was last year or something like that. I'm not really sure, but the Megalodon is big business, so its extinction is a hot topic, and there's been a lot of theories put out there about it. There was one a few years back, I would say a very enthusiastic one, that energy from a supernova wiped out the shark. People were like, oh yeah, it took this cosmic energy explosion to kill off this indestructible monster. No, I think a lot of people like that idea. The problem is that when this theory came out, everybody thought that the shark died off 2.6 million years ago, which was when this cosmic explosion took place. Then evidence came out that it actually died off 3.6 million years ago. So they were off by 1 million years. So obviously that theory was not going to hold water, pun intended. Sure.
Right.
Okay. Right. So my theory, and I try to base these things on logic. If you have a cosmopolitan species, that means a species that's all over the world. Okay. It takes a lot for that animal, for that species to go extinct, because there could be populations that survive here or there. If the planet shifts and the temperatures change and some areas become warmer or cooler and stuff like that, like we're experiencing now, okay, it doesn't matter. They can move to different parts. If there was a food shortage in one spot, there's others, populations that are going to pick up the slack and stuff like that, or if the Isthmus of Panama, closed off certain corridors or whatever it might be, so these animals went through different ice ages and things like that. Temperature rises and falls, that they were still there. And then 3.6 million years ago, they died off. I equate this to the pliosaurs that I write about in my Cronus Rising series. These giant sperm whale-sized marine reptiles that had jaws that could crush a car. And then all of a sudden, they died off around 90 million years ago. Well, interestingly, they died off right after the ichthyosaurs, which means fish lizards. I don't know if you know what an ichthyosaur is.
I've seen pictures.
Okay.
Yes.
It looks like sort of like a dolphin with a long face and a lot of sharp teeth. Okay.
Yep.
So they literally look like dolphins. Okay. And ichthyosaurs range in size from a couple feet to like 30 or even 40 feet long. All different kinds all over the place. And they ate fish. So you had these fish stocks crash, and all these ichthyosaurs all of a sudden went extinct. And then the pliosaurs died off. And that's because the pliosaurs, their main bread and butter was ichthyosaurs. That's what they ate most of the time. Okay. Once in a while, they'd eat a plesiosaur or a smaller pliosaur or something like that, or a shark or whatever. But their main food was just like if a shark was eating tuna and all the tuna were gone, it had nothing to eat. That type of stuff. So no ichthyosaurs, pliosaurs die right on the heels of that, and they're gone off the fossil record. Other plesiosaurs still around, but no pliosaurs. Okay. Sorry. I know it's rude, but I had a cough drop in my mouth, and I'm going to take it out.
Except for Loch Ness, but we'll circle back.
Yes, we'll circle back. So, but back to the Megalodon thing. So, I believe that Megalodon died off because of its diet, but not in the traditional sense. To me, it was when I did a lot of research on this. Okay, I don't just like make stuff up or pull it out of my butt, as my daughter would say. But it was like a triple whammy. And it was a combination of the shark's excessive size, its over-specialization, and its reliance on a food pyramid that in the end came crashing down. Now, this may rankle some people, but there is fossil evidence. In fact, I'm holding a piece of one right here, okay? But there's fossil evidence in the form of the Megalodon's tooth morphology, as well as fragments of fossilized whalebone that support a theory I had put out years back that the adult sharks got most of their food from rotting whale carcasses. They were too slow to hunt cetaceans that swam 3 times as fast. It just, so point is that being a primary scavenger for the adults wasn't a bad thing, because the Megalodon's hunting strategies were advantageous for tens of millions of years, as we now know. We just looked at the dates. Okay, so you want to think of this as an inverted triangle. Okay, like this. And at the top of that triangle, you got the younger Megalodon sharks. They're maybe 15 or 25 feet long, and these fish are active hunters. They are quick enough to catch and kill the baleen and tooth whales of their day, which were around their size. You didn't have any giant whales beyond 4.6 million years ago or something like that, okay? There were obviously a lot more of the smaller sharks than there were the giant adults, which would have been at the bottom of that food pyramid. So you want to think of it like great whites. There are thousands of fish, I'm sure you'll agree, white sharks out there that are 10 or 12 feet long, right? And hundreds that are 16 feet or 14 or 50 or 16, right? I mean, you see them, shark cage videos and stuff like that. But how many of them that are 20 feet or more? I mean, we see deep blue, and we see the evidence I've collected of sharks that are bigger, but how many do we see? You know what I mean? So the same thing would have applied to the Megalodon. You have these younger sharks making kills, and what's left after they eat their kill, which they're not going to eat all of it, it's as big as them, carcasses. So the younger fish were basically providing food for the older sharks. Lots of food, because they outnumbered the older sharks 50, 100 to 1, maybe more. You see, and that's why the sharks developed these upper maxillary teeth that are designed to crunch through rib cages on carcasses, which were often stripped when they got there, so they could get access to the heart and lungs of the dead whale, which the smaller sharks, even the smaller megalodons, couldn't bite through those giant ribs. And I got ribs in there. I could show you with the bite marks to prove it. Okay.
Mhm.
So that's what the big sharks did. Okay. So about 1 million years before the Meg died off, whales started getting bigger. I believe that this was a result of evolutionary pressure, meaning the biggest whales were less likely to be attacked, by a 20, 25-foot megalodon, let's say. So these bigger whales passed on their genes, and future generations grew larger and larger. And this is supported, by the way, in a paper by, I think it's Lambert et al. People can look it up. So the shark actually caused whales to grow by feeding on them. And this gradual increase in whale size became problematic for the younger megalodons, as a 20-foot predator cannot exactly attack a 40-foot leviathan without getting hurt or killed.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
Yep.
So this also became a problem for the adult megalodons, which were physically capable of killing whales that size, 40 feet, let's say, but they weren't fast enough to catch them. So the shark is faced with larger and larger whales traveling in pods that are no longer on the menu. So this is the first whammy, or strike one if you want to call it that, towards megalodon going extinct. The second whammy is also whale related. And that's at the end of the Miocene and early Pliocene. Many of the smaller species of whales that were megalodon's bread and butter, like the ichthyosaurs to the pliosaurs I mentioned, okay, these whales began to die off. There was one called Dianatons, if I'm pronouncing it right. It was a 25-foot baleen whale, and there was another called Bohaskaya, which was a 20-foot beluga type whale, toothed whale. Both of these whales went extinct at the close of the Zanclean, the early Pliocene, which is 3.6 million years ago, and exactly the same time Megalodon vanishes. So if there's no small whales around, okay, there's no prey for the subadult sharks. It means there's no carcasses for the huge adult sharks, which are the species broodstock, the breeders. You don't have those, you die, obviously, okay? So, think about that. 3.6 million years ago, many of the small whales are gone. The giant baleen whales remain to this day, but the megashark is gone. Don't you find that interesting?
Well, it's almost like catastrophic, right? It was just like the perfect situation at the
wait.
time.
But wait, there's more.
Okay.
There's more. Okay, so the third and final nail in Megalodon's enormous coffin is something that could affects the most vulnerable of their species, their babies. See, and nobody before me that I'm aware of ever focused on the fact that there was an extinct species like Sirenian. It's like a dugong, okay, sort of like a manatee called Nanosiren garciae, I think it is. Okay, and Nanosiren was a dwarf dugong that inhabited the warm, shallow waters of South America and the United States. It was small, like 6 or 7 feet long, maybe 300 something pounds, and it was the perfect prey item for neonate megalodons. And a neonate means a baby, okay, which is that size. So the baby sharks would have feasted on these blubber-rich, high-caloric meals, which would help them grow. And they're also hiding in the mangroves and the shallows, so not going out to sea where they're at risk from the adults and great whites, like you mentioned, and Chubutensis and all these other monsters are out there. So they're staying in the shallows and they're eating these dwarf dugongs. Nanosiren also died off around 3.6 million years ago. I find it hard to believe that's a coincidence. So reliance on it for food was, in my opinion, strike three for the megalodon. No food for the babies means no adults, and the species could not withstand this triple whammy hitting them all at the same time. Food pyramid collapses under its own weight, population goes with it, and just like that, the world's largest carnivorous fish was gone.
Just like that. You make it sound so simple, but if there's no food, there's no food.
Exactly.
That's it.
What happens to people if there's no food?
We die.
There's a famine. Exactly. So, and this was hitting them from every angle. If you think about it, it was like coming at them from multiple. It was hurting the babies, starving the babies out. Okay, the subadults didn't have food. Then the big adults didn't have food. It was like nobody had anything to eat, and I'm sure they tried and ate sea turtles and everything else that they could. Like orcas do that sometimes. They eat sea otters when we've taken all their salmon and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, a lot of them are starving off British Columbia and stuff. Killer whales.
I just want to ask just a stupid question for me. We've all seen those videos of the great whites eating the seals, and they fly out of the water. Where's that at?
I think that happens in a lot of places, to be honest. I mean, I've seen makos do that.
Well, there's
Montauk and stuff.
well, it's where the seals are trying to go from island to island, and
You're
the
probably thinking of the Farallons, the
Is that
Farallon
what
Islands,
it is?
California. Yeah. West
Okay,
Coast, probably.
is that what it is? And
Uh-huh.
you would think that the seals would just learn from that, like not go.
Well, they know, but unfortunately, you get careless. And remember what I told you, the white shark, they don't just come charging at them like, here I am, I'm going to get you. They're on the bottom, blending in, looking, a young seal who's not as experienced, somebody who's not paying attention, something like that. Maybe he's checking his 401k on his cell phone, and then boom, they hit him.
Somebody just said it's in South Africa.
The Farallon Islands.
Well, what I'm talking about with the seals, I think it's seals.
Oh, it's probably where the guys are actually doing that, dragging the thing behind the boat and getting them to breach, like air jaws, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, a white shark, when they breach, it's usually when they come up and they rush at something and either they miss or they hit it and they erupt out of the water. There was actually a study that was very useful for that documentary that I got to reference, where they put tags on basking sharks that were breaching also, and they were able to crunch the numbers and get their speeds and figure out how fast like a white shark would be, the same size and stuff like that. It was fascinating stuff.
Where did you see Bigfoot?
Danbury, Connecticut.
What happened?
Oh.
Danbury, Connecticut.
Yep.
Where the mint is, the Danbury Mint.
I don't know about the mint, but my grandparents had built a house on the lake, Candlewood Lake there, many, and we're talking back in the 40s or something like that. It was in the family for a long time. I used to love going up there in the summer, fishing the lake and stuff like that. And I mean, the whole story's in the book, but what happened was, it was me and two of my brothers. We'll call them Siskel and Ebert for privacy's sake. Okay.
All right.
You know who Ebert, you know who you are. But anyway, so I was around, it was like 30 years ago. I was, 28. Yes, I'm an old man now, decrepit.
I'm older than you. So
we going to go out and cash our Social Security checks and try and pick up some hot chicks at the nursing home. But anyway, so moving right along, I didn't take my meds today, so I'm going to apologize, if I'm a little out there, you're not catching me at my best. So anyway,
it's Thursday night, man.
Is it really?
Yeah, get crazy. Get wild. Okay, so you're out with Siskel and Ebert.
Okay, so we at the time we didn't have a boat, and we were going to do shore fishing. Okay, and there is this lake called Squance Pond, which is part of like a state park. Which, of course, I'm sure Bigfoot are often seen in state parks. Seems to be a habit, so to speak, or habitat. So what happened is, Squance Pond is not a small lake. It's like 2 miles long or something like that. It was originally part of Candlewood Lake, and it was all one thing. But there was a narrow space between the two sections, and they built a causeway there. You know what a causeway is? Like an artificial road. Okay, and they piled up all this rock, these small rocks, whatever, and stuff like that, and they built the road on top of it. It's a small road. I don't know if 1 or 2 cars can go across this thing or whatever it is. So this causeway, if you look at it from a side angle, like a cutout, is kind of like slope like this with the rocks on both sides. So this side would be like Squance, and this side would be Candlewood, let's say, and then the road's on top of that if you're going back and forth. And so that the water could flow back and forth and the animals could travel back and forth, they built like I don't know what you call it, like a ducted big giant like concrete and steel sewer pipe, whatever, that connects them, underwater, so that can happen. You with me so far?
I'm looking at it.
Okay, cool.
I'm literally looking at it. That's what I'm doing. Awesome. I'm right here. I'm at Squance Pond.
I thought I was getting boring, because
no. I'm looking at Candlewood Lake right here. I'm looking.
So if you see the causeway, you'll see exactly where this happened. So we decided, that we figured, okay, there's got to be all sorts of bait like crayfish and stuff in these rocks, because the rocks go out for hundreds of feet. Okay, and we were going to get there right before dawn. and we were going to have our bobbers out and our baits, and these fish, bass, small amount, large one, were going to be coming in, and we were going to have a field day. We were going to slaughter them. Okay, that was our plan. Unfortunately, we didn't count on this thing called weather. Okay, and we didn't pay attention to the fact that it rained its buns off the entire night. So when we got there, the water was the color of tea, and not tea with milk in it, dark tea. Okay, it was horrible. So we're sitting there in the dark, or just the little sun's just starting to creep up a little bit and stuff, and on our buckets, fishing the squan side, nothing's happening, flat calm, literally like the water was like glass, a little bit of mist, and that was it. So we're sitting there, nothing. So then Siskel and Ebert decide, you know what, we're going to go try the Candlewood side. You coming? I'm like, nah, I'll stay here. I figured, you guys are going to leave, the fish are going to turn on, and I'm going to, catch them, and you're going to, whatever, competition.
That's right.
So they go up the slope, they cross the road, and they go down the other side of the slope. So now they're setting up shop on the other thing. If I had shouted real loud, they could have heard me. There was no cell phones back then, obviously, or anything like that. No, if they were.
It's only 1,000 feet at its widest right there between Squance and Candlewood. I'm looking at it on the map. So yeah, you could have a conversation for sure.
So I'm sitting there on my bucket. I got a bucket turned upside down or whatever and stuff, and watching. I have like 1 or 2 rods out there, and nothing's happening. I'm miserable. And then I see this thing on the surface of the water. It breaks the surface. It was, I don't know how far out. I'd really have to go back there and eyeball it to get exact numbers or stuff. It might have been 150 feet away or something like that. But I see this dark thing come to the surface. And then it went under, and I thought it was a fish at first. I was like, ooh, there's a big one, and then it was gone. And then like a minute or two later, it popped up again, a tiny bit closer, and then I started looking at him and I saw that it was like roundish and it was furry. It had like this reddish brown hair, kind of like an Irish setter. Okay. And I thought, oh, it's a muskrat. And then I got a tiny bit closer. I'm like, nah, that's too big to be a muskrat. I'm like, that's a beaver. Yeah, that's a beaver. It was like shaped like a beaver's butt, kind of, maybe, or that kind of stuff. And I'm like, no, that's not a beaver. I'm like, what the hell am I looking at here, And I couldn't figure it out. And it would go underwater for maybe a minute, 2 minutes or more, and then it would come back up. And in retrospect, I know that it was going down and diving for crayfish and coming up and eating them, taking a breath and going back down again. Okay. That's what was apparently happening in retrospect. But at the time, I had no idea about that. I just thought it was some weird animal. So I'm like, is that a deer? Because I realized it was big, And I'm like, no, because deer, they do the Loch Ness thing with the, swim like that. And you see them, you know what I mean? You see them like in Champ videos. Oh, that's Champ. No, it's a deer. Okay. But anyway, so, it wasn't a deer. And then I literally thought it was an Irish setter. Like I said, the color and everything like that, it must be an Irish setter, because I started seeing parts of it like behind it, not just what was the head coming up part of the head, but there was stuff behind that, and I'm like, it's an Irish setter, it's about that size, maybe, it's still pretty far out. And I'm like, no, that head's not shaped like an Irish setter. And why is it diving underwater? It was quite the mystery. Okay. And at one point, like I said, like you were seeing like this head come up. And by the way, the head was not conical. It was rounded.
How old were you? How
old? 28?
Yeah. No,
28 or 29.
You're 28.
Yeah, 28 or 29. Yeah.
So you're old enough to know better is where I'm going with this, allegedly. Okay, continue.
Right. So I knew nothing about Sasquatch back then, just so we're clear on that. Okay.
Right.
And then I stood up, and I looked, and I could see when it came up that there was like a body right behind the head, but it was going away from me. So it was like, tapered. You know what I mean? Like the head was closer, so it looks bigger. Like if I put my hand out like this towards the camera, you see my hand looks a lot bigger than the rest of me, that type of thing, force perspective. But I could see its legs right under the surface of the water. It had legs in the back, and the legs, they move together when they swim, like a mermaid, like that. So you mark my words, when proof of Bigfoot comes around, people see them in the water, and their legs are moving together, they're going to be like, Max was right. Okay.
Merfoot.
Well, it was quite an adept swimmer, and it had powerful lungs. Okay. So at this point, I started to think that it was an enormous orangutan, like that somebody, like one of these wealthy people on the other side of the lake had a pet orangutan that somehow was a master swimmer and was comfortable in a lake and diving underwater for God knows what. Okay, which made no sense, but I was like grasping at straws. So then I came up with this brilliant idea. I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I wanted to know what this thing was, okay? Because I've been watching it for like 15 minutes. 15 minutes, okay? If I'd had like something like the Polaroid was with my brother, but a good camera, and I could have zoomed in and taken pictures, whatever, so like I'm sure it would have been incredible. So I decided I'm going to go up the hill, like back up the hill, you know, and get high enough. I'm looking down at it because I was ground level. So I was kind of like, even standing up, I couldn't see much of it. You know what I mean? I wanted to be able to get way up there and look down on him like this and see exactly what this thing was and solve the mystery. So I waited until it went under because I was sneaky, you know, and stuff. And I started backing up the hill. And as I got part way up the hill, I, like my heel, like some of the gravel, those rocks, like it came loose or whatever and stuff. I stumbled a little bit. And this thing must have heard it because it surfaced loudly. And it wasn't where I expected it to surface. I expected it to be in the path that had been coming. When it surfaced, it was like off to this side, you know, like, I don't know, like 20 yards, 15, 20 yards away from where I expected it. And I heard this like splash and I turned and looked. And just as I was turning, it must have been like diving then. And I saw its shoulder and its upper arm and its elbow and its forearm like this. Okay. All this broke the surface of the water like that. It was very muscular. It had thick Irish setter like hair, drenched, hanging down, streaming, and it went whoosh, under. And then it started swimming, not towards me, although close, but it was looking for that narrow corridor that went under the causeway, and that's where it was headed. So I rushed over, I don't know how far it was, maybe 30 feet, I'm guessing, to the edge of the water where that little tunnel was that it went like that, you know, and then I saw its shadowy form like go underwater like this, like that. It was very fast swimmer, and the water went like this, like woof, like that. And I got to tell you, when it was out there, I thought it was only about 5 feet long, but it seemed a little bigger when it swam by, to the point that I was like, whoa, I took a step back, like, what the heck is that, you know, this type of thing. So then it went into the tunnel and I ran up the hill. Almost got clipped by a car. Literally, I almost got killed. Okay. And I was like this, and I ran across, and I told my brothers, I was like, guys. I was calling it the hairy red thing. Okay. There was a hairy red thing, this big thing. It was swimming over there. I said, it's going to come through right now, right through here. Watch. Like this. Well, by the time I got to the top of the hill, not even almost got creamed, it had already gone through. Okay. This thing, like I told you, this thing was fast. And so we're standing there, and a minute passes. They're like, can I say the DICK word on here?
Sure.
They said, you're a dick. Stop wasting our time, whatever, stuff like that. I'm like, and as I said that, I don't know how far to the left, maybe 100 feet away, there were all these lily pads that came out from the edge there, you know, like prime bass habitat and stuff. And something surfaced in the lily pads under them. Like there was this crash like this, you know, and I was like, wait a minute. And like, that's a fish. And then like, I don't know, 30 seconds later, it popped up like 30 feet further, like crash like that. And it was in there, this thing, using the lily pads to cover itself. And it would surface under the lily pads for air and then keep moving. And it did that. It went around the bend and then it was gone. Okay. And that's what happened. So then I forgot about this thing for like decades. You know, I mean, I got mocked for a few times. Oh, the hairy red thing, stuff like that, you know. Right. And it wasn't until I was doing a lot of research, I was like, wait a minute. You know, and then like I was on a show talking about it. And, you know, I mean, I looked it up. There was like many instances of stuff in Connecticut and in that general area, sightings and stuff like that. I had found this one newspaper clipping. I think it was from like, I don't know, the early 1900s or whatever. And it was like fishermen in the lake there reported hairy wild child swimming in lake. Okay. So like, I was like, well, what is that? And then somebody was telling me, well, back then, you know, in the 20s or 30s, whatever this was, they didn't have the term Bigfoot or anything like that. So that's what they called it, you know, a hairy wild child. So I'm thinking, you know, a young one of these things was out there, you know, it probably like crayfish, like we like potato chips, you know, maybe it wasn't supposed to be there and its parents didn't know, who knows what, you know, adolescence. It was not small though. It was easily as big as me. Okay.
Before that's you just read my mind. Before we run completely out of time, we got about 60 seconds left. You said the arm, right? Okay,
Mhm.
so judging on that, that type of anatomy, that size, are you thinking 6 foot, 7 foot, 8 foot? Do you have
The closest I could go by that was the shadowy form that went past me, and like
Right.
I said, it was bigger than I expected, but it was also down, like deep. Okay, I don't know how deep that channel was right there. Maybe it was 10 feet down, but it was big enough to make the water move like this.
only Max Hawthorne has got a Merfoot story. What are the odds of that, right?
I don't know, but like I said, I didn't realize it. So my point was, though, on the show, this guy called into the show or wrote in, and he had said he knew the exact area. He said there were 100% crayfish there. We used to go there, camp there, catch them and fry them, all this other stuff. They stopped going in I think the late 70s or early 80s because they came back to their camp. Their camp was in the area by the woods, and it had been ripped to pieces. Their entire camp was destroyed. I mean, destroyed, ripped apart, tents, everything scattered. And they thought it was, quote, drug-crazed hippies. Okay. So the following year, their friends were like, "Are you coming?" They're like, "No, watch out for the hippies." So their friends went out on a canoe, and they were on squants on the side, the state park side, woods, heavy woods and stuff. I don't know, 10 feet from shore, something like that, to fish. And then all of a sudden, they hear some crashing through the brush, and this huge buck comes running out of a tiny little clearing, running for its life, terrified, dives in the water right in front of their prow, swims past them, eyes wide in terror, and just swims for its life to cross the lake, which is like a mile or something like that. Okay, but it didn't care. And they heard something chasing it, crashing, boom, boom, behind it, and it stopped just shy of coming into the clearing. And they're like, sitting there, like, thought it was a hunter, which it was not a hunter. To be clear, that mountain is so treacherous. You try running through there, you're going to break your leg or your neck. I mean, I put a photo of it in there to give an idea. Boulders the size of cottages, slippery, this, that, hills, leaves. I mean, deadfalls, whatever. It's nightmare fuel. Okay, hiking through there. But anyway, so whatever it was stopped, and then it started throwing stuff at them: pine cones, branches, sticks, rocks. Every a few seconds, another thing crack would come down, hit the canoe or land in the water next to them and stuff, which, as we all know, is primate behavior and is Bigfoot behavior. And then they were like, "Hey, we're in the canoe, cut whatever," and then it stopped. And then he heard about this from his friends, and he put it all together, and he thought, that makes sense now. See, so that's more evidence to back up the exact same lake. Everything that I thought with the crayfish and everything like that, it all makes sense. It just lined up,
I didn't expect this, but I'm going to say it. I'm going to go on the record, Max. Best Bigfoot story I've ever heard. That right there.
Thank you.
That's incredible. I have never, I've done.
There's been many times when we were there in that park where you'd see, not many, but several times, where you'd see a police helicopter searching, over the trees and the woods and stuff like that. And people disappeared. Somebody went missing, stuff like that. It was creepy, so I don't know, but, whatever. I mean, I just joke, like, imagine if I threw out a line and I hooked him. You know what I mean?
That's where I thought you were going.
And I start reeling him in, and it comes out of the water like, "Rrr, rrr." Like, holy shit! Like, feet don't fail me now.
I thought that's where you were going with this.
Nope. I'll be like, "Guys, here's the hairy red thing. See you later." They'd be like, "Whoa."
Hey, Max, we've got your links up for Amazon and Diablo. So thank you for that. Where can everybody find your stuff, and where's the best place to reach out to you?
Facebook or Twitter would be fine. It's Real Max Hawthorne on Facebook and YouTube. And I'm not sure what the Twitter one is. They keep changing my stuff around here. Let me see if I can tell you real quick. But I mean, Facebook, I have like a personal page, and then there's a group on there called Monsters and Marine Mysteries, which people are welcome to join. We post a lot of great stuff on there. It's a really friendly group. So I can't recommend that enough. And no BS. We don't allow trolls. We don't allow bullying or anything like that. Somebody steps that line, they get stomped, tossed, whatever. On Twitter, it's the Max Hawthorne. For some reason, there's people like to use my name. I don't know why.
Bill and John Inside, get everything up in the chat for Max, and we'll get everything out there in social media for you. Max, I look forward to the next time that you're on the show, man. Great.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Behave and be well, and enjoy your weekend.
You too, big guy.
Thank you. Max Hawthorne. And Merfoot, I didn't expect that. And go check out Squance Pond. It's Squance with a Z. And you can see Candlewood Lake right there, and look at that while Max is telling the story, and you'll get the complete picture. It's right there. I want everybody to enjoy and have a great, safe, fun, and amazing weekend. I know I am. Fade to Black is produced by Hill J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Thank you to Dennis and Kevin, Webmasters, Drew the Geek, Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR with the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2023 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Everybody have an amazing weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Go back, Lee Tappy.